Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books, and I've been covering Disney and Marvel very closely these last several months. Disney is facing a series of major disasters right now, a lot of problems that are not just typical business problems where you have to determine strategy, tactics, dealing with competitors. It's almost as if Disney kind of operates in its own little crazy world where they're dealing with their agenda and they're not really even dealing with what their fans want. They're not really dealing that much with what Wall Street wants. It's just kind of what Bob Iger and the board of directors are collaborating on. Now, Jonathan Majors is in big trouble. He was arrested not long ago for a very bad incident with one of his girlfriends. Let's get into this article, give you the latest on Jonathan Majors, then go into a few of these other major disasters they're dealing with. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really do appreciate you guys. Jonathan Majors loses more projects, but not his Marvel projects yet. The 33-year-old actor loses two movie deals and another ad campaign which follows his arrest in March. Following up from just yesterday, we were talking about how Jonathan Majors' manager PR firm had dropped him. These are serious drops. I'm going to tell you something. We'll get into this article. Marvel is going to drop him. They've already made the decision. It's not public yet. It's not my inside information. It's just the business common sense. He's getting canceled from everything else. He'll get canceled from Marvel. It's just kind of a matter of timing. But you can understand why if Marvel was to drop him tomorrow, it's better that they let other people drop him first, let him get as toxic as possible, and then they can go ahead and say, hey, listen, we got to be done with you. But let's get into the article. More bad news for Jonathan Majors, as it's learned the 33-year-old actor has lost more projects, which follows his arrest last month for domestic violence allegations in New York City. Just yesterday saw the news that Majors has been dropped by his talent manager and PR team. By the way, a talent manager is different than an agent in Hollywood. A talent manager covers things that an agent doesn't cover, and it's a unique relationship, and they get points on your business deals usually, similar to what an agent would get. And now it's reported Majors has been dropped by The Man in My Basement, an ad campaign for the Texas Rangers Major League Baseball team, and an unannounced 5th season's Otis Redding biopic. When you get all these cancellations, why are these guys judging him? Why are they giving him a chance, like Ezra Miller, for example? What's the point? He isn't guilty of anything just yet. The problem is this, is that it's one thing to be in the Jonathan Majors business. If you're going to do a deal with him, you're going to be paying him, that's fine. The problem is, if he's getting into these domestic violence situations and you own brands and you care about your brands. Now, we know Disney is a little bit strange with their brands. They don't care about them that much. They may feel on some level that domestic violence is a positive for Disney. However, it's a serious accusation, and his releasing of the text messages from his girlfriend supposedly absolving him of everything was not good. That's a thing that in domestic violence, and I have an article here on domestic violence for why women stay in abusive relationships, accepting blame for abuse is something that unfortunately victims do, blaming themselves for everything. The whole idea of releasing those texts, it was terrible. It really made it look like he was victimizing her all over again. And in the first place, it wasn't even really understood that he victimized her, but releasing those private texts, look, from what I read, it didn't even say that he had her permission to do that. So at least they should have made a claim they had permission to do that, but they should have never released those texts. It looked terrible, especially in the Me Too environment, which we're a little bit out of, but we're not completely out of now. But for a company like Marvel, for the Texas Rangers, they can't be associated with this stuff. Yes, the world is a little bit depraved right now, and it's getting worse and worse, but they can't be associated with this. The other problem is there's a lot of recidivism in this kind of stuff. So if he has a domestic violence issue with his girlfriend, if he feels like it's okay to put his hands on her, whatever it is, I'm not saying it happened. I have no idea what happened. However, if it's kind of understood that it's not a completely false accusation and he might have kind of done it, it's a little hard to do future projects with this guy when he got caught doing this and then he put out the damn text messages really victimizing her all over again. Is this going to happen again like next month? Is it going to happen again in a year? Yeah, it probably will happen again. At least his terrible response to the situation of releasing those private text messages will probably happen again. Look, I can't give you legal advice about this, but what Jonathan Majors did was completely ridiculous. If his lawyer suggested it, it was a terrible suggestion. And really, that's the thing for me, that when I saw those text messages come out and him complain and say, hey, listen, I'm being accused of this. I'm the victim. We've got video proof. In the meantime, we haven't seen any video proof. The DA hasn't dropped the charges. This is a really bad situation. If you're ever in this situation, for the love of God, don't start releasing evidence into the public. The actor was also set to star in and executive produce The Man in My Basement, but now he's out of that role and will be recast by William Dafoe, who is still attached to the project. Regarding the Major League Baseball project, Jonathan Majors is a Texas native, so this Friday the Rangers were supposed to go in with an ad campaign featuring the actor, but according to Deadline, have decided to yank plans to go forward with the campaign. It said that Majors was never signed on to the Otis Redding biopic, but the actor is no longer under consideration for the film. Jonathan Majors is still with the Avengers, though, and Marvel. Concerning Marvel, Deadline says that Avengers star Jonathan Majors is still cast as the MCU villain Kang and remains with Marvel in future phases and is set to appear in Loki Season 2 and 2025's Avengers The Kang Dynasty and 2026's Avengers Secret Wars. Rumors from Scoopers also offer that Marvel hasn't made a decision as of yet, but that Marvel is prepping to replace Jonathan Majors if need be, which we can guess might be determined by the outcome of his allegations against him. I'm going to say I really believe the decision has already been made. It's just a factor of timing. Rumors have also said Majors has parted ways with the Dennis Rodman biopic, but today in Deadline's report, it said that Majors is also currently set to re-team with Spike Lee on Amazon Studios' Da Understudy and to play Dennis Rodman in Lionsgate 48 Hours in Vegas. Jonathan Majors was arrested in March following an alleged altercation with his girlfriend, where it's been claimed he got violent over her wanting to see his text from another woman on his cell phone. Jonathan Majors didn't know the secret that's very important. If you're going to cheat on your girlfriend, you need to have a second cell phone. This is very important, and if you're going to go to the trouble of cheating on your girlfriend or your wife, you do need to go ahead and get a second cell phone and make sure to keep that private. Also, if you're in a taxi with your current girlfriend or wife and you're getting texts and whatnot from your side girl, it's important to not check those texts while she's sitting right next to you. Otherwise, you get into the situation which erupted in violence, apparently, with Jonathan Majors. It has been reported that Majors was the one to phone the police, but when the police arrived, they felt there was enough evidence due to the alleged injuries suffered by the girlfriend and arrested the actor, with the girlfriend going to the hospital. Yeah, there were injuries. There's visual evidence of the injuries. She had strangulation injuries on her neck. I mean, you can't have that. He called the police apparently, but apparently she was knocked out. So he may not have known what happened to her and kind of panicked like, I guess I should call 911 because God forbid she dies on me. I mean, I don't know what happened. I wasn't there, but apparently she was unconscious and he called 911. Jonathan Majors was arrested for 3 counts of assault in the 3rd degree, aggravated harassment in the 2nd degree, 3 counts of attempted assault in the 3rd degree, and harassment in the 2nd degree, and is due in court on May 8th. Lawyers for the actor have stated Majors is completely innocent, and they have the proof. Quote, all the evidence proves that Mr. Majors is entirely innocent and did not assault her whatsoever, Majors' lawyer said after the arrest. Unfortunately, this incident came about because this woman was having an emotional crisis for which she was taken into a hospital yesterday. The NYPD is required to make an arrest in these situations, and this is the only reason Mr. Majors was arrested. We expect these charges to be dropped soon. That was a couple of weeks ago. They haven't been dropped. He's been dropped from movies. He's been dropped by his PR agency. He's been dropped by his manager. But he's been dropped from a lot of projects, but the charges haven't been dropped. That's really a problem. It's a problem for Marvel because they were kind of counting on him to be their superstar actor. They love Jonathan Majors, but he's major problems for them right now. Now, Desantis is going after Bob Iger on the sneaky move that Disney tried to pull with regards to taking back control over Disney World in Florida. What Disney did was clever. However, it really wasn't actually legal, really. And when you do something, it's legal until you get challenged on it. And Disney's getting challenged on it. Now, this never should have happened. Desantis is probably quite smart. He went to Harvard. He's a trained lawyer. He got to be governor somehow, so he's no dummy. But it's different to be street smart than to be book smart. Bob Iger's attorneys are pretty sharp. How did Bob Iger pull off tricking Desantis in the first place? Well, really with childlike ease, because when Bob Iger came into control of Disney again as CEO, one of the first things he was going to do was to say to his attorneys, who are responsible for development and responsible for projects related to Disney World, which is a very big business for Disney, all he would have had to say to them, and he would have had to say, is, hey, what's our situation in terms of our relationship with Reedy Creek, we've got these issues going on with Desantis. How much time do we have where we've got pre-approved projects? And where's really the time limit where we're going to have to start dealing with this new board on getting approvals from them? That's very straightforward. It's known by all of their real estate people, and they gave him an answer. And the answer probably said, look, we're covered for the next 2 or 3 years, but after that, we've got some issues where we're going to have to start to deal with Florida in terms of approvals. All Iger would have had to say at that point to his attorneys would be, okay, what are our options on trying to avoid this? Do we have any options on trying to get future approvals? DeSantis' people should have thought of this. This didn't occur to them whatsoever. But the simplest people working over at Disney, of course, realized, look, we're going to have to submit things for approval in a couple of years. If we didn't have to submit things for approval, if we had some sort of a additional runway of time, 5 years, 10 years, if we could submit projects now and have Reedy Creek approve them now before the handover to the state of Florida, we could have those projects pre-approved. So what's the longest amount of time we can extend this out? Do a little homework. If it took a week or 2 weeks work, I would be surprised for a few basically intelligent, clever lawyers to come back and say, listen, here's what we do. We pre-approve projects essentially for the next 30 years through the trick that they did. We'll put it through the board. If Florida doesn't catch it, we'll get away with it. It's at least worth a try, because if Florida comes back and cuts us off, then we'll go ahead and we'll have to give them the authority, which is ultimately what's going to happen. So Disney took a shot and they got it past DeSantis. Now, is this DeSantis' fault? Yeah, it absolutely is DeSantis' fault for not having his attorneys look at and see, how could this contentious deal potentially blow up? When Trump acquired Mar-a-Lago years ago, he got it for a low price. It's something like $5 million, including all the furnishings inside of Mar-a-Lago. That was going back, before his first divorce. And the way he was able to get it, what Trump did was he bought some property that obscured the view of Mar-a-Lago, some small beach piece of property, constructed an ugly wall on that property so as to essentially damage the value of Mar-a-Lago. And then he made them another lowball offer, and ultimately the family took the money from Trump, and Trump got a great deal. Is that within the law? Yeah, it's technically within the law, but it's this street level deal making kind of stuff. Iger isn't even at that point. Iger's just at the point where he's getting reasonable legal advice from his real estate people saying, hey, look, if we extend the approvals 20 years, 30 years, essentially now it's 30 years plus is what they got away with, we'll be okay. At least it's worth a shot. And that's what they did. So DeSantis is trying to void the agreement that the Reedy Creek board did, where they gave 30 years essentially of runway of extra development approval time to Disney corporate that they really didn't have the authority and shouldn't have done. I've referred to this before in another video about this being kind of like a fraudulent conveyance. It's something where you can't do a transaction like that if there's supposed to be an independent entity and there's no real honest benefit to the Reedy Creek district just to hand over all of this additional value to an outside company like Disney. This is what DeSantis is essentially claiming. They're passing a new law soon. They're trying to dissolve this transfer agreement to Disney. They'll probably be successful dissolving the agreement. Disney will probably try to challenge it in court, but ultimately there'll be some kind of a settlement relatively soon. Some of the details of this are very difficult to work out. There are so many political dynamics going on, things that are politically of interest to Disney, as well as things that are politically of interest to DeSantis as governor and also with his attempt to become president. It gets very complicated, but neither one of them can be afforded to seem like they're losing. This is a good opportunity for DeSantis to pass this law, have the Disney situation get resolved without Bob Iger at least looking like he's winning, and they basically will wind up resolving it, and it'll probably settle down very close to what DeSantis wanted to do with the board in the first place. It's not realistic to assume that Disney's in a position where by doing some fast moves with transferring the authority for development from Reedy Creek to Disney for no pay, no money to the Reedy Creek district whatsoever. Just, hey, here's 30 years of free development. We won't have any authority over it, when that was obviously contrary to what was just passed by law in the state. Even with favorable court rulings, you just aren't in a position where you can say we can give away control of legal authority in consideration for nothing. And that was also authority that was really owned by the state, and it was on loan to the Reedy Creek District, especially considering that the Reedy Creek District was going to cease to exist in just a matter of days after that. But it just shows Desantis is not as sharp as he really needs to be when he's going up against serious competition. This is not Bob Iger's most vicious deal. This is just basic lawyering of like, there's no reason that Bob Iger shouldn't have tried to do this. He's not going to get punished for trying. He's just not going to ultimately probably be successful with escaping the control of the state of Florida. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Do you think that John Majors is going to get fired as Kang? You know what I think, but what do you think about it? Do you think he's got a chance to continue? Do you think that Desantis is going to be able to straighten out this mess that he made with Disney and get things to settle down there? How he has the power of the state of the entire government of Florida on his side. Why did this even go this far and get this embarrassing slip up? It's his fault, isn't it? Or maybe you think it's not his fault. Bob Iger is just too clever for him. But definitely let me know what you think in the comments below. Always appreciate your comments. Love to see your comments. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.